Hello everyone, and welcome back to Age of Mythology Divine Edition. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Eldritch, a civilization defined by their complexity. At the very beginning of the game, you will start with 4 dreams. Dreams are very weak scouts, without a lot of line of sight, and without much speed. However, you do get 4 of them. They may later be retrained at the temple for 1 favor, and they cost 0 population. The main villager unit of the Eldritch is the townsfolk, who are practically identical to the Greek villager for terms of your build orders. They may build mills which store food and wood, and safe houses which store gold, and they have normal houses. Shortly after building the temple, you will receive 4 free cultists. 2 of these cultists will be normal cultists, and 2 of them will be cultists of your major god. Each cultist has a unique unit that it can transform into, for example, the appealing form, which is the primary method of favor generation for the Eldritch, where the cultist turns into, well, the crony from the campaign for a little while before dying, and the cultist of Azathoth can turn into a temporary plentybolt. You may retrain cultists and cultists of your main god at the temple, in addition to heroes of your main god. If you get annoyed by the fact that the cultists will be idle since they cannot gather resources for the most part, you may task them to the temple to worship. This is not a very fast way of generating resources, particularly if your major god is not Azathoth, but it is a good way of making sure that they are occupied. Cultists can, in the Archaic Age, build the Sacrificial Circle. The Sacrificial Circle allows you to garrison units inside, and then after a short delay, they will be sacrificed and turned into favor. You gain 7 favor for each unit sacrificed. This is why the Eldritch do not have a primary method of healing, as they can instead send units to be sacrificed if their duty is done and they are wounded or weak. Given that the Eldritch economy focuses so much on favor generation, this can be a very handy bonus, especially if you do not have the population space to train more cultists to get more favor. Since the only reliable method of favor generation aside from sacrificial behavior is to transform cultists into appealing form. At any point, you may train invokers of your god power. So as you can see, I have trained 2 invokers of Schism, and I have gained 2 charges of Schism. This is one of the reasons why favor is so important for the Eldritch. In fact, for some god powers, for example the Curse of Yig, which directly and simply deals damage by turning enemy villagers into snakes, effectively killing them, favor can be translated directly into damage on your enemy. So the more favor you have, the better it is. That being said, most Eldritch god powers are somewhat weaker and situational, in the knowledge that you can use them effectively infinitely over the course of the game. Let us now advance to the next age. In each age, you will gain an additional 4 cultists. Again, 2 regular cultists and 2 cultists of the minor god that you just advanced through. You may train heroes of that minor god, and you may train cultists of that minor god, in addition to their god power again. Note that the heroes called voices have a low build limit, but that can be increased by researching this tech. So for example, if we research everything available in the classical age, we can train normally 3 voices, but because we are worshipping Azathoth, it gives you 1 more, we can train 4. Each voice has a specific ability, and though they tend to increase in price and in power as you go from age to age, the voice of Azathoth is quite strong due to its special ability being powerful, and the voice of Atlas Natra's special ability being empowering training grounds. Training grounds are the primary classical age military building. They can train lunatics that are something of a cross between spearmen and hoplites, being more expensive than spearmen, cheaper than hoplites, and in between both when it comes to power. You may train huntsmen, which are powerful fast and very short-ranged archers. This is much shorter than most archer ranges, even those obtainable in the classical age. This does make them very weak to counter archer units as well, especially ranged ones like the Terma or Slinger, who can outrange and in some cases completely wipe out a mass of huntsmen before they can close distance. You may also train Ravagers, which are similar to raiding cavalry but weaker, and possessing 50% crush armor, meaning that they do not have the 99% crush armor of basically every human unit, which means that they take extra damage from crush attacks. For example, getting hit by siege, or by getting hit by myth units that deal crush damage, like the Sphinx or the Mountain Giant. In the classical age, your cultists can build libraries. Libraries allow you to train one of your major gods technologies and two of your minor gods technologies, in addition to, at this point, one normal ritual and one minor god ritual. Cultists may also build tainted town centers, while your normal townsfolk can build normal town centers. Each kind can build the town center of the other kind, however, they must be started by that kind. So if you only have cultists, you can only build the tainted town centers, and if you only have townsfolk, you can only build normal town centers. Our tainted town centers are similar to regular town centers, except that they have less range, as you can see here, 15 range versus 20 range. They deal crush damage, meaning that they are good against enemy buildings, making them better aggressively. They can train both cultists and townsfolk instead of just townsfolk. They give 5 fewer population, and they train unique technologies for the major and minor god. These technologies tend to be more expensive than the normal technologies that you get from the library. However, they tend to have more drastic effects. So for example, this technology changes your dreams from very weak cannon fodder units into quite strong units that if you send into the enemy base during a battle, will divert a lot of their resources as they path block enemy units and get targeted aggression, as many buildings will fire upon dreams and many units will attack dreams given the chance. This means that each dream essentially gives you 400 HP's worth of damage that is not being done to your main army. That technology, as you can see, also gives you an army of 20 dreams, the maximum you can have at any one given time, in order to properly cannon fodder your enemy. The Eldritch Navy is very similar to the Greek Navy. In fact, the only differences at this point are due to minor god technologies. This is partially due to the fact that we do not know yet how Eldritch is balanced on water, mainly due to the effects of Dagon, who is a minor god that has somewhat of a focus on water, as you would expect if you know anything about Dagon. If you ever heard of Shadow over Innsmouth, yeah, he's the one that did that. Let us advance now to the Heroic Age. In the Heroic Age, once again, you gain 4 cultists, 2 regular and 2 of your minor god. You also now gain access to the Heroic Age hero of the minor god, who is once again more expensive, slightly stronger, and has another special ability. So in this case, its special ability is to generate area of effect damage for favor. And once again, you can retrain your god powers. Note that oftentimes the more expensive the god power is, means the more strong it is in combat, and often means the longer training time it has as well. This can mean that it is beneficial for you to have multiple temples, each of them training god powers. And all voices can empower temples, meaning that sometimes it is a good idea, if you want to spam god powers and have a lot of favor, to be constantly empowering several separate temples as they each spam out god powers. Essentially putting your economy into god powers instead of necessarily into your military. As the Eldritch military, it remains quite weak up until the Mythic Age. In the Heroic Age, you may now build your Heroic Age generic ritual, in addition to your Heroic Age minor god ritual, and 2 minor god technologies for your Heroic Age god. In addition, you may now research Guardian Temples, which allows your temples to launch barrages of Eldritch energy. These attacks count as myth unit attacks, which means your temples do bonus damage to myth units and reduced damage to heroes. I'll send a cultist forward to build a temple over here so we can see the attack in progress. And the spider can stay. In the Heroic Age, the Eldritch military is composed of Brutals, who are very tanky units who are good against infantry. In addition to having bonus damage, they have high hack armor, meaning that they can withstand a lot of damage from infantry sources. As you can see, they still have the crush armor of 99%, but the main point is their speed is 3, making them very slow and difficult to counter any sort of archer. For example, the Huntsman has a speed of 4.85, which means they can easily outrange, turn around, and then snipe Brutals due to their low pierce armor. Shiners are archers with an incredibly long range of 30 and good damage. However, they are also extremely inaccurate and only gain bonus damage against siege and ships. The final unit is the Stone Skin, a unit with extremely high armor, though not as high hack armor as the Brutal, but act more as a tank. They are good against arrows, they are good against infantry, but they do not gain bonus damage. They simply walk in and tank damage and attack things. Now let's see the temple attack. Oh yeah. As you can see, it attacked the obelisk. This does make them good defensive buildings, especially since if you do not upgrade your sentry towers, they will have more than double the HP. See, you need guard towers in order to make sure that they have more than half the HP of a temple. And even though temples do vastly less damage, they do send out more projectiles per attack, making them good against bunched up units. The Siege of the Eldritch is the Devourer, a slow-moving melee siege weapon that is good against both buildings and infantry, as they do 10 hack damage and 35 crush damage, and have a significant bonus against infantry. The slow attack speed means that they deal more damage than you might otherwise expect. Anyways, moving on to the Mythic Age. I should probably mention, fortified town centers will also give more population space from the Attainted Town Center, but you must go to the Mythic Age before you allow Attainted Town Centers to support as much population as normal town centers. In the Mythic Age, as you might expect, once again you end up with 2 free cultists and 2 free cultists of your major god. An important note from Nyarlathotep is he does not get an invoker for his god power due to the fact that if you use it once, he stops helping you. So you don't get multiple incarnations, you only get the one. See that the navy is still the same as Greek. In the Mythic Age, the Eldritch now get a very strong siege unit, the Star Thrower. They are weak, they cost a little bit of favor, they have a large range, and they fire a large number of flaming projectiles. They're good against anything that is reasonably slow, as the numerous projectiles add damage very quickly, but they do also gain a bonus against myth units. This makes them one of the best siege weapons in the game for taking down titans, as the large projectile count, 2 crush damage, and technically non-zero hack damage, make them deal around 2 damage per projectile, plus the bonus, plus the number of projectiles that they fire. And as you can see, that is significant. They do have a relatively large minimum range, though. There we are. In the Mythic Age, cultists can build grand temples, which train specialty human soldiers. The first of them is the Yith-Possessed, a unit that is drastically stronger the fewer you have of them. So for example, at this point they have 50 attack and 70 of each armor in addition to 355 HP. If we train the maximum number of them, we can see that they now have 25 attack and 50% of each armor. They are only good against heroes, or at least they only get bonus damage against heroes, but they are good against practically everything. They do lose one-on-one with elephants though, at least in equal numbers. This means that Yith Possessed make for a very good specialty fighting force, but due to their cost, and due to the fact that normal infantry lines, so you can see 355-25, 355-25, normal infantry upgrades do not in fact affect them. As you can see, it's all cancelled out at the end of the day. And they have their own unit line upgrades that are more expensive and take longer to research, and then they can be one-shot by a mummy. So they're not perhaps the overall strongest human soldier, but they do run for a good case, and a group of them is more than enough to counter a Ragnarok if it only attacks one location and is only around 250 population or so, due to the high attack, high armor, and good bonus damage against heroes. Launch Riders are very similar to Bellerophon, as you would imagine from the fact that it is a slightly retexted Bellerophon. They are good against cavalry. They can leap into battle, which does bonus damage to cavalry as well. And they are expensive and fast and overall strong. Finally, the Penguin-Fletched are technically the strongest archer in the game, so long as they are fighting from above. When they fight from below, they deal significantly less damage, and when they fight from above, they deal significantly more damage. Much more than the normal 25% that buildings and archers tend to have. They're also only good against human units, meaning that while they get a bonus against human soldiers, they get a damage reduction against myth units and heroes. However, they are still quite strong, even if, like all of these units, they take up more population than a normal archer would. Once again, the only unit line upgrades that affect them are these special extra expensive, requiring favor in fact, technologies to upgrade them here. Because once again, they are not changed by researching any normal archer upgrades. Now let us discuss rituals. By the end of the game, you will have six researchable rituals. One for each minor god, one for your major god, and two that are generic. Let us begin with True Craftsman, which lets you build altars. This is perhaps the most important ritual, as it allows you to construct altars with normal cultists, which not only transform them automatically, allowing you to auto-queue them, but also gives extra favor per sacrifice. The second generic ritual is the Ritual of Lightning. This does basically what you would expect it does. You build it, and it summons a wild lightning storm that attacks every unit around it. Every set of iteration of this god power, and you can track iterations by seeing the timer up here, one lightning bolt will strike a building. This means if you use this in the middle of nowhere, you are guaranteed only one cycle. Well, if you use this in a person's base, like I'm doing here, it can last for multiple cycles because the lightning keeps on attacking other buildings. Naturally, you can delete it yourself at any time to end the effect. This can be very useful if you build walls around it, and if you put it somewhere in a choke point along an enemy trade route. However, like all rituals, they are expensive and very weak. They are very easy to deny if the opponent sees them coming. This is one of the main gameplay features of the Eldritch, in that you need to be somewhat sneaky with your rituals, often using them on the side or the back of an enemy base, sending cultists forward and to loop around the enemy and put this in a critical location. I will not go into the god-related rituals, as I will do those for that god's particular deep dive. All in all, the Eldritch are a culture that excels in options and excels in myth units. So all Eldritch myth units have specific special abilities. The Eldritch heroes each have specific special abilities. The Cultists each have specific special abilities and generally transformations as well. They gain 3 human soldiers per age. They gain 1 siege unit in the heroic and the mythic, and they have a large number of technologies to research and choose from. This makes them the most adaptable civilization in the game, but also one of the hardest to use efficiently, as the sheer number of options make them very, very strong, but also confusing. The Eldritch are a civilization that is very easy to misplay, and a civilization that's very hard to play optimally. Anyways, that's all I have for them for right now. Hope you enjoy.